Welcome to Rocking the Dad Pod. I'm Justin Soderberg, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Paul Eaton, a good friend of mine, father of three. I'm a father of two. We're here to talk about being dads here on Rocking the Dad Pod. I typically won't do these intros because Paul and I are co-hosts on these things, but I kind of realized as we were recording this that we didn't do a very good job at introducing what this is. But this is a episode, a podcast about being a dad in general. This is not a how-to. This is not and we have all the answers. This is a let's shoot the shit about being a dad and what's like being fathers in a world today that we live in. So so it's myself and my good friend Paul Eaton. We're here to talk about being dads. It's a generic episode to just learn a little bit about us, and we just shoot the shit for about an hour. So check it out. But you can visit us on rockingthedadpod.com. All the links and things like that will be on there, and we'll hopefully release these monthlies on the first Tuesday of the month. So enjoy this first episode with Paul and I, on Rocking the Dad Pod. Enjoy. I was gonna say welcome back to the podcast, Paul, but you know what? This is welcome to our podcast.
Welcome to our podcast. Welcome
This
to
is
the
now
first
actually
one.
a co-host podcast. Unlike my other podcast that you're not the co-host, but everybody thinks you're a host or that it's your podcast.
The amount of people
Right.
think it's my podcast in general.
It
Oh,
is.
hey, that guy right there, that's your guest, right? He's your co-host.
He's on a lot. Weird. Sometimes he's on there without you.
I don't understand
Sometimes
those
he
episodes.
sits
Those are
in with
weird.
the guests. Sometimes your co-host is the one that's there talking to the guests and you're not. But yeah, so Paul and I are friends. Been friends for years now. Now it's years, and
Yeah,
we are both dads, fathers, dads, whatever you want to call it, guardians.
that guy.
The guy that helps pay bills and gives you food and all that stuff to your kids.
Every birthday
yeah.
party I go to, I'm just the Pokemon guy.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Oh, your dad's the Pokemon guy.
But if anybody knows us also from the Capes and Tights podcast, I'm the host of the Capes and Tights podcast. Paul is a very regular guest on the Capes and Tights podcast to talk comic book related things, comic book movies, usually to review really crappy movies, right?
Yeah,
Paul?
really bad ones. Yep.
Um,
It's not exclusive anymore. Some other good ones have worked their way in. It's
They
usually
have.
exclusive to bad movies.
Yeah. Oh, this is completely different. We're not going to we're trying not to cross over these episodes that much because we don't want to be like, oh, remember when you said this on the other podcast? And people are like, well, I didn't listen to the other podcast.
Right. I
Um,
don't care about comic books. I was just listening to two guys rant about being dads.
But what I wanted to say really quickly is that rest in peace to what's his name? Corman, the guy who directed the Fantastic Four movie that was unreleased.
No.
Passed away. He passed away on
Aw.
over the weekend. And
Man.
so we've had that fun
So sad.
time talking
Yeah,
about
that
the
Fantastic Four
stuff.
movie.
But so I want to put that out there. Rest in peace to that. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about being dads, fatherhood.
Rocking a dad pod.
Yes, exactly. We definitely have those. Some more than others. I'm not gonna what?
I don't know what you're
What?
talking about.
Paul, this is not this is not a podcast. If anybody's tuning in who is not a dad or is a dad or whatever, it's not a podcast where we're like, we know what we're talking about. This is how you should do things. It's not like a
God, no.
chicken soup for the soul like dad podcast here.
Yeah, you
This
might
is
want to
gonna-
tune into something else in that case.
We're recording this one during the day remotely, but our goal eventually is to record these in person and they'll be at night. And so they will definitely devolve into chaos probably at some points.
Oh,
in
I'm sure.
these.
Yeah, I would guarantee it. I think this is for the dads that are trying to wing it, the dads that are doing their best, the dads that are getting by. We're with you guys. We're
Mhm.
all in this together. Yep.
Because I mean, let's be honest, we all have dads, and you are close to your dad, I'm close to my dad. So it's not like we're estranged from our fathers. But we're all doing this for the first time. Even the third kid you had is still the first.
Different.
I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So Paul
yeah,
has
it's still a different experience.
Paul has
Yeah,
three,
for sure.
three daughters.
Yeah, I have three girls, so it would be fun too to get some dads on that. Like, so you have the spread, you get the boy
Yeah.
and the girl, and then I have some friends that are just boy dads, and I think it's a different experience. And I think it'll be a fun thing to chat about as we get rolling on these, the different dad experiences and different dad life, and then we're in different stages.
Yes.
Because you've got like the infant,
Yes. Well, I have
the
a
little
she
one.
she turned 8 weeks on Friday. And then Nova turned Friday of this record as of this recording, and then Nova turns 3 as of this coming Saturday of this recording. And
And I have
so
12, 10, and almost 8.
and so the funny thing is, it's also cool about this, Paul, is that you're only a couple years older than me too. So that's the other thing about it.
Yeah.
It's not like we're talking different age. Like we're the same generation as people, but we're in a different stage of parenting, if that makes any sense,
Yep.
which is kind of cool. So like we
For
both
sure.
have similar, like when you were kids, I had this specific thing that you had too, because we were
Yeah,
born around
we're
the same
not
time.
doing this huge generation gap between the two of us. But I
It's
think
our
it'll be cool
kids
to
that
have
have
other
that.
dads on with different generation gaps.
Mhm. Or I
Like,
mean, people with kids our age.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool about that. So we did do a version of this podcast prior to this that was with my buddy Brian Keyser, who is still a friend of ours. He's still kicking. He's still around. Paul and I just see each other a lot more, and we thought we'd be able to shoot the shit a little bit more on these things than Brian and I used to. So it's this iteration of the podcast. But it's the same idea. It's what's going on in our lives, parenting. Honestly, there might be episodes where we're just talking generically what's going on in our lives. It's not
Yeah.
really have anything to specifically do with our kids. But a lot of this, like I just changed my daughter's dirty diaper this morning and wiped poop off of her butt. Paul doesn't do that anymore. So there's
Thank
like,
God. Thank God. I don't remember the last time I changed a diaper. I'm fine with that. I'd like to keep it that way.
listen, your
Like,
parents are getting up there. It might be happening again
oh,
soon.
Jesus.
But the opposite side of it.
Yeah, it starts getting the reverse. Here we
Can we
go.
talk about that being parents too? The role of like our parents getting older, so now we're gonna have to take care of our parents. Is that like the other
Yeah,
parenting part
right.
of this?
It's all part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so it's an interesting thing, and I'll tell you right now, Paul. 3 years ago, Nova was born, and 3 years ago, almost to the day, like we was just talking about,
Mm.
and I still forgot to mention like doing this off for the first time. Certain things that we did with him with Riley when she was born 8 weeks ago. So like feeding her again for the first time with a bottle and feeding Nova. It's like there's certain things where I'm like, how did I hold him again? It was weird. I was like, I just freaking did this 3 years ago and I still had trouble like re-engaging my mind on like specific
Yeah.
things. And I'm asking Taylor last night, like, when do we actually get like set nap times again? Do you remember that? Like I know she just sleeps whenever she wants now, but like at some point it's like a 9 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon
Yeah,
nap
we
time
start
thing.
developing some routine.
And I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, she slept through the entire night last night. Okay, so
You're ahead of me. Although
that's
last night I had all my kids sleep through the night. But you and I chatted routinely, even with the age of my kids, there's somebody up almost every
heavy.
night.
Well, no,
You know what
Nova
I got
woke up
last
at
night?
one
I could have
o'clock.
slept through the whole night. I had a chance to sleep the whole night, and a car alarm goes off in my neighborhood, which never happens. Never happens. I'm like, you've got to be shitting me. Like,
Yes.
I'm waiting for a kid to start screaming next, no kid. And I'm laying there, like, so angry that this car alarm went off. I'm like, I could have slept through the whole damn night and this. Like, are you friggin' serious?
Yes, and it's truth. When we talked about it, it was like my son used to like Nova used to go to bed like I don't know, he was probably like a year and a half maybe. Where he just would get up at 7 o'clock at night from the couch and just like walk into his bedroom and be like good night and get into bed, close the door, and he'd go to bed.
Yep.
And then he'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're like, the hell happened here? Why do people complain about kids going to bed? This is so freaking easy. And then about, I don't know, 6 months ago, he just stopped wanting to go into bed and he
Serious
woke up in the
regress
middle of
right
the
here.
night. I slept in the same room as him and all that stuff. And then
Yep.
now it's so funny. People are like, is your daughter sleeping through the night yet? I'm like, well, first of all, this is like weeks ago. She's like a month old. I hope she doesn't sleep through the night because she needs to eat in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
So like
that'd
she
be an
can't
idiot.
sleep through the night yet. And but then Nova still would like wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and then 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Jesus, kid, like you're the one that's supposed to be sleeping while she's the one that's supposed to be sleeping.
Right.
And so I think it's like the third or fourth night in a row where she slept like 8 hours in a
Nice.
row. And which is a little early anyway, because usually about 6 hours now, but she's killing it on that sense. But the problem was
Mm.
she's like fell asleep like 7 o'clock. So 8 hours is still 3 o'clock in the morning
3 a.m. Yep.
to wake up. And then, but then she'd go back to sleep. So it was just a one time in the night wake up feed. But last night we were able to like, she fed at like 8:30 ish, almost 9. And then she slept until 5 this morning. So to me, that's a
It's
sleeping
not
through the
bad.
night. And then
Yeah,
Nova
it's a
woke up
solid
at like
start.
1 a.m. for like 5 minutes. Taylor went and got him, put him back to bed. He went to bed. And so like that was the only disruption of the night. And
Mhm.
so it was funny to think about. Like, we're recording a dad podcast today, and I'm like, actually, last night went pretty smoothly. I was about to come on here and be like, this freaking crap that we have to go through as parents. And last night was good. So, I'll do it again. I'm kidding. I won't be doing this
It's
again.
funny because I don't know what like I don't know what goes on with him, right? So you said no like 6 months ago
Yep.
was starting to like he changed over. So maybe it's either like maybe he's aware things are changing in life, with mom's pregnant and things are happening, or maybe there's something like they say kids go through periods where they will change their sleep pattern based on experiences they're going through. Like he's
Mhm.
learned something or he's developing something and they just can't sleep because they want to go. They got stuff to do. Um, I don't know what the hell my deal is. Like, if I get one of them to sleep through the night, then it's another one. And I don't know. We talked, because Katie used to be a pretty good sleeper, and Emma, my middle daughter, like when she was little, she'd come up, she'd have her hand on her face, and I knew it was done. She's like,
Yeah.
"Dad, can I snuggle?" Like, yeah, all right, and she's out.
Nova does the
Um,
hair. Nova plays with his hair.
Starts
He
playing with
grabs
the
the
hair,
back of
and
his
like, yeah,
hair.
we know
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah.
So, now I go in like we try to do reading with Katie every night. Katie needs some help reading, so um she usually we've now been trying. This is all like getting into the dad stuff, right? We've been trying to get her to read earlier, and then I read to her
Yeah.
because we were doing she reads to me and I read to her, and like the her reading side of it. First of all, she's tired, she's frustrated, like that just wasn't working. So switching this seems to be a little bit better. But I just don't know what's with this kid. All of a sudden, it's like she's got a nightmare every night. She's up, she got a nightmare or something. She's screaming at the top of her lungs from the other room, and she
They
never
do
really
that. I
seems to
don't.
tell
It's
me
like
what
it's
they
like
are or
blood
anything.
curdling
She's
scream. It's the
yeah,
craziest thing because Nova does the same thing, and I'm just like, you. The first time you hear it, you get up and you run. You're like, oh my god,
oh my
someone's in our house,
yeah,
or someone fell and broke a leg, and they're like in bed, like, hi. Why did you scream like that?
I'm out of water.
No, stop.
Yeah,
That was like if you were dying, that's the scream you
that's the
do.
sound you should be making. Yeah,
Otherwise, you go,
not everything
Dad.
else. Yeah. No, she's screaming daddy, and I'll go, I had a nightmare. And then it's like, about what? And she just like stares at me. And I'm like, all right, let's get functioning here, straighten yourself out. And then she's out again. But of course, then I'm up. Or, if it wakes my wife up, then Liz is up and she's like on her phone and I'm laying there staring at the roof while she's, on her phone, like, oh my God, this is miserable.
Yes. It's
So
I don't like
welcome to
it. It's
dad life, folks.
yeah, it's weird. And,
If you've
and
got
you're right.
infants now and you think you're going to sleep when they get older,
And the biggest thing about I was
I
funny
hope the best
laughing
for
about
you.
it is like is as becoming a parent for the first time was like it's probably this. It could be this. It might be this. There's no like definitive like you
No.
break a leg, you go to the doctor's like you have a broken leg. This is not
Yeah.
like this could be
Yeah. Parenting's not
whatever.
that way.
And they can't tell you like the thing about Nova now is at least that there's a communication aspect he can do. So he can be like, I'm scared of whatever, even if it's not
Yeah.
a legitimate reason to be
Even if it's
scared.
not
He's
something.
yeah. And he's but like a year ago he couldn't communicate that way. He just was like, I don't want to be in my room. I wouldn't be able to say I'm out of my room.
Yeah.
And so there's
I
that
just don't want to be
that
here.
I know Taylor and I are both like, I don't want to go. He's like, I don't want to go to bed. And I'm like, I don't care. Don't go to bed. Close the door. Play in your room all night. I don't care. Just
I
don't
tell
come
mine the same
bother
thing.
me.
I don't care what you're doing. Just leave me alone.
Yes, just stay in your
You
room.
do
I
whatever
want
you
to do
want.
what I
Just
want
leave
to
me
do. This is
alone.
my
I want to go to
time.
bed. I want some dad time to like lay here and stare at Seinfeld or something. Or I'm trying to watch a hockey game and it's like it's 10:30 at night, kid. Like, please go to bed. I'm
Go
not
to
tired.
bed.
Okay, fine. Don't go to bed. Just stop
Don't
bugging
be
me.
here.
Yeah.
But or
Go to your
sit
room.
quietly in the corner. But that's
Do
never gonna
something.
happen. The
No, that
one
doesn't
thing I
work.
would say is again I don't have very much. I don't have the answer to everything, but I will say that there is this possibility in our podcasting of telling recommendations and how things worked for us,
Yeah,
or
I think that's a
small
big
things like that people want. There's a book. I gotta find the book. I don't know where the book went. I have a book that's like I forget the name of it now. I'll have to look it up. But it's a cool book that is like that's the book I would buy for new dads if they have a new dad. It's funny
yeah.
stuff about being a new parent. But the other one was like this comes to an end. Like there's so the biggest thing that what made it an easy
Yep.
transition from kid one to kid two was originally, Paul, and as you know, some people might not know, and that's one of the reasons for this additional podcast is to tell people about us a little bit. Is I wanted one kid, from the day that I was old enough to realize that I could have kids or whatever, to me being with my ex-wife. Well, the entire time I was with my ex-wife, I was like, I really want a kid, and she wasn't for it, and so on and so forth. So we didn't, which is fine because honestly, people again don't know everything, but that's the way it should be. If you guys care about each other, you and
Yeah.
Liz chose to be with each other.
Yep.
So truth of the matter is, and I still hate that it sounds so bad, but Liz still comes first in a lot of things because of the fact that she is your soulmate and she'll be there forever with you, where your
Yep.
kids will grow up and move out and all that stuff. And
Yep. They're
so,
gonna they're
not
gonna
say
move
this,
on with their own lives.
it's a
That's
one
what
A
it's
and one
funny to
B
see.
thing. It's not like you're like Liz is the best thing it's ever like this. She's like far and above beyond everybody else, but like it's Liz and then your kids, and that's the
Yeah.
thing to me, and that's what it should be. And some people disagree with that, but because they're like, oh, my kids are the best thing ever. I
Yeah, I
understand
see
what you're
that, and it's
saying
funny
there.
because they seem like people that generally don't do much with their spouses. They
Yeah,
don't care much about their
yeah,
spouses. Like I've seen those relationships
yeah,
where like it's all about their children. Like the ones that still have the license plate that's like so and so's mom, and the kid's like
yes, yeah,
34 years old.
yeah.
Like okay, is that
Being a
your only
parent is a
identity?
great thing, and that's not what I was. So my thing is like,
Yeah.
is that like to you, Liz is the number one, should be number one A, and then your kids are number one B, and the same thing with me and my kids because again, we chose to be with each other. So my ex-wife and I, when she said she didn't want kids, I was like, cool, whatever, that's fine. I would want kids, but I'm not going to fight you, and so on and so forth. I chose to be with
Yeah.
you, and this is the decision you made. Great, and we moved on. And then we got divorced and separated, divorced, and I ended up meeting Taylor, and she wanted kids too, and I was like, one kid, Paul. It's all I want, one kid. And I had my best friend, who was best man at my wedding, Mike. He said, oh, I only have one kid. It was great. Some coworker, some customers at OBC, same thing. One kid, great. I was like, cool. One kid sounds good. We had Nova, and I was like, oh, we probably could. I could do another one. It could be fun to do another one. I can understand this. And the one thing, and this is back to the original point, that got me going was all the bad, annoying like stay up all night, not sleeping through the night, feeding people in the middle of the night, yada yada yada, all that stuff comes to an end. Like there's an
Yeah.
ending in sight. There, it doesn't
Yep.
go on forever, and that's the biggest thing I think to me is the difference between like you having so you have a limp, you got hurt in hockey, and basically that's like okay, you have this limp and you have this limp for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's gonna
If
be
that
it.
limp is so annoying that it bothers you every single day and it annoys you every single day, you're like, I have to live with this forever. Or if you get
Yeah.
diagnosed with diabetes or have, all that stuff, it's like you have to live with this forever. Whereas a kid, the fact that Riley wouldn't sleep through the night because she needed to be fed is basically not over yet because obviously it is regression and so on and so forth. But like, it's not going to be forever. I will
Yeah.
eventually get to sleep through the night again. So like, there is an ending in sight, which makes it so much easier to cope with.
So that's what I have nights
That's
that
my
like
point.
Katie wakes me up crying or whatever, and we talk about Liz and I talk about like, oh, and I say, is this ever gonna end? Is this kid ever gonna sleep? And Liz is like, well, obviously, like Charlie doesn't still wake us up. Charlie's
Yeah.
12. Charlie had to move into her own room in the another part of the house because she's like, I'm done with all you people.
Mhm.
I want my own space. So like, yeah, you're right. It's gonna change. It's gonna happen.
And that's what makes it okay. And I think that's some people do it, and some people like my wife was talking about like some people live for this. People with like 8 kids are the ones that are
Yeah.
like I like
Well,
whatever.
that's the situation I'm in with my wife. My wife's from a family of
Yeah,
7, and I was more or less only child. I have half
yeah,
siblings that I didn't live with. I didn't like really grow up with per se. So I was kind of on the like I'm all set with kids. Like I don't. It's not something I had in my life. Um, and then when I met Liz and she like I from a big family. I love kids. I want numerous kids. Then I was sort of like okay, well I can do one, right? I can live with one. And then we saw with
well, and that's funny. So like, it's kind of funny about maybe that's the reason why I only wanted one is because I had 2 siblings. It's because I was
yeah,
like,
right.
I know what it's like to be a middle child, and I don't want to have my kid to go through this. No, so I only want one.
Yeah.
No, and everybody used to come up to us and be like, God, but he needs a sibling to play with. I'm like, that's what friends are for. He doesn't need
I
to have
loved
like,
being an only child, and it was funny because that's what Liz was like. Oh, being an only child is so sad, and I'm like, I wasn't sad. Like I,
yeah,
and it's funny because she's changed now more, but when we were younger, because we were married for 20 years, when we were younger, I felt like she didn't know what to do with herself necessarily in like her own
yeah,
downtime. Now she appreciates it. She wants to read, she wants to do something. She hikes by herself, she does all these things. Um, before she had more of a hard time where I was used to my own time. I need my own time to kill and to do stuff and to like center because that's
Kill?
I was used to that constantly.
Wait, you kill people in your own free time? You just admitted to me a murderer. Guys, you hear it here first. I'm rocking the dad pod. Paul Eaton is
Just
a murderer. No.
lots of Call of Duty,
Yes. No,
Grand
I know
Theft
what you
Auto,
mean. I know what you
nonstop.
mean. Yeah, so there
Yeah,
is this.
you need that. You need that time to just like decompress and um so it's funny, yeah. And I think like when we had Charlie, um Charlie was this like little like genius and she still is. She's way smarter than I am. But she was this little genius and she was really easy and she was really cute. So then like, yeah, all right, I could have another one. And Liz wanted more, so that was, if I even said, oh, maybe we could have another one, like, oh, look, yeah, you're pregnant.
There you go. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, there that goes. Then came number two, and she just wanted number three, wanted number three, wanted number three, and she got me because the two girls. So she's like, well, the next one's bound to be a boy.
Boy, yeah, that's a trick.
And yeah, and little Katie
And
was born.
yes, it
Yeah,
never works
and
out.
then I
Yeah.
said, that's it. We're out of girl names. There are no more
Yeah.
girl names. We're done. We can't.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to put them. Our house was comfortably designed for probably three people to live in.
Yeah.
So now that there's five of us, not so comfortable anymore.
Yep. So if you ever see Paul sleeping on the floor of the comic book shop, you know why. There's no more room in their house. They have
Yeah,
to.
there's just nowhere else to go. Yeah, that or I
No,
needed a
but
decent night's sleep that like a kid wasn't screaming in the other room.
so here's my question. So here's a question for you, Paul. Like this is getting to know you a little bit too. Is like, was three like okay? Now you have three, and that's it. Like a little space. Was it just like okay? One day you guys just woke up one day, and we're like, okay, we're done. I mean, I don't like if there could
I
be
think
personal things that I don't know.
I was more done. She
Yeah.
she probably would have gone for four. I was done.
Yeah.
Like, and now she's happy that we're done because we talked
Yeah.
about like we still have friends. We have friends older than us that still have kids in diapers, like little ones, and we're like, okay, thank God that's not us.
Yeah.
We're starting to be kind of like more ready to move on with our lives
Yeah.
and have our own time and all this stuff. And it's we still got a long ways to go. So yeah, no, we're I think happy for that. But yeah, she
Eh,
she probably would have had four, but the the longer we went and Katie grew and the more like, oh look, now we're not buying
yeah.
diapers or changing diapers and we're not having feeding time and we're not having all this stuff, the more it was like, yeah, this is a little easier. All right, now we can clean out a section of our attic where we're always saving stuff to pass on to the next kid and like, hey, we don't need this anymore. So someday we'll take our house back, I think, maybe.
Well, I think also
It is
it's a weird
definitely
thing.
their house. Oh dear Lord.
It's funny to say, especially
It's
for
their
a guy
house
who
and I'm
just
just fortunate enough to pay the mortgage.
yeah, exactly right. It's weird enough for a guy like myself say like I just had a kid, so it's like who's 8 weeks old is to say that like you're looking at that like oh you have 18 more years until you're at a house back, and it's because it's like well why did you have the kid in the first place? You're just counting down until they're gone. But
An experience, right?
your youngest being 8, you have this now 10-year thought process of college or whatever. Like
Yep.
18 is that
Yep.
number.
What
And
they're gonna
nowadays,
do, what
honestly,
they want to
Paul,
do
it's probably
after.
more like 12 years or 13 years the way the world looks right now.
Yeah,
However,
true.
there is that like you guys will be in your early 50s, to be able to actually do stuff on your own. And the benefit you have
Yeah.
right now, Paul, is that you have a 12-year-old that can at least for a little while, not overnight or things like that, but like for an hour or so, watch the rest of your kids
Yeah, we're
to a
finally
point where
getting there.
now,
We've gotten to a point now where we've snuck away for a little, let's go out for a drink, let's go out
yeah,
to dinner or something, just us. And that's nice. And Charlie's a lot like me in the fact she wants her own time and her own space.
yeah,
So sometimes she just wants us gone and like, oh hey, we were gonna go do this. She's like, I'm just gonna stay home.
yeah,
Like you guys can go. But at the same time, she still enjoys like time with us and just like one-on-one time with us. And it's nice and it's fun. And when they start growing up and start having their own interests, Charlie and I are watching NHL playoffs nonstop.
mm,
She loves hockey and we're outside passing a hockey puck around. And this and that. And Emma is this little like artist, and it's so interesting to see her and where she's going with art. And here owning the comic store, when we have like an artist in, she wants to be here for that. She
yeah.
wants to see them and chat with them and show them things and all of this. And it's fun. It's great. growing up with them, right?
It is. There'll be episodes I think we'll plan on doing on this things. I'd love to do ones around like sharing our passions with our kids. Like, like both of us are like comic nerds and sports nerds in a sense too.
Yep.
I love my favorite sports, basketball, balls, hockey, but like we have this passions of things that we want to have. You and I have things that we're really passionate about, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Like
for
there's
sure.
other people that I know that are just like somewhat passionate about a lot of things. So it's not
Yep.
like so you
You know
like
what?
with your
I
kids,
never
it's gonna be
understand
like
people that aren't passionate about anything. That's something I never understand. You
but
know
like
those
if I'm
people, right?
yeah,
You
I'm
know those people, and you're like,
passionate.
well, what do you do in your spare time? You're like, I don't know. I'm
I'm
like,
like,
what?
but then I look at myself, I go, if it wasn't for my passions, I wouldn't have I don't have spare time because
Right.
my passions take up my spare time. But that makes any sense too. Like
Yeah.
I work, I have my family and so on and so forth. But like I know people who just like sit and stare at a wall or just watch whatever's on TV.
The,
And I'm
the
like,
the people that wear gray cotton t-shirts out. They don't have not wearing a logo branded thing or something.
well, I'm saying
Like
like
the people that just
I
like, I'm like, what do you like to do? I don't know. Well,
I
what do you
can't wait to
what?
share like basketball with Nova or even hockey
Yeah.
or baseball or any of these sports out there. Whatever sport he'll get into, I can the thing about being a sports fan, like a hockey fan, for example, or a basketball fan, is that like no matter what, even if your son's like, I want to watch base or your daughter's like, I want to watch baseball,
Yep.
you'll still probably better off being a sports fan in general to watch a sport that you don't like or don't watch than
Yeah.
someone who's not a sports fan at all. And so, like, even in
Oh
that
yeah.
benefit, like, the fact of the
Yeah, I
matter
can
is,
see
if
that.
my son's like, I really want to watch soccer, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
like soccer. I know a lot of people do, but I'm guarantee you that I'll be able to sit down and watch soccer with him because he's passionate about it and I want to love the thing that he loves.
Yep.
And so, but if I didn't like sports at all, it'd probably be very hard for me to watch something, like that you
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I can see like just not understanding it, not getting into it. And that's a good thing. I mean, we have big in our family, Emma, with the traveling team for baton twirling,
Yeah.
and Katie's been doing baton twirling and learning about that um as a sport, as an activity, as like what it is. And yeah, you're right. Like I'm learning it. I'm out there helping Emma learn tricks, and I caught my one spin for anyone that does baton twirling knows what the hell that is.
So now, whenever like on free comic book day, when I was helping at the shop, and people were like, "Where's Paul?" I'm like, "He's in Massachusetts baton twirling." They're like, "What?" I'm like,
Yep.
"Yeah, he's a professional. You didn't know that?
Yep.
That's how he actually pays for the shop. This comic book stuff doesn't
Yeah,
make
so
any
this
money."
doesn't make any money. No, it's all in the advertising for baton twirling.
We're like,
It's just me in a very sparkly suit
"Yeah, no, stop
throwing
there, please
batons.
stop there." But yeah, it's a sharing those passions and doing all those things, and I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to have kids in the first place was the idea that I have like it's the Michael Scott joke. The reason why he wanted to have kids is because he had friends that couldn't say no to him, or friends that had to be friends with him, or something like the kids that had to be
Right.
friends with them.
That way he has
That's
a
the
friend who
reason.
has to be friends with him.
Yes, and I'm just like, that's why I guess I had a kid. But like, no, it's definitely it's taxing, it's frustrating, it's stressful,
Oh God, is it ever?
it's it makes no sense. Like we mentioned it sometimes, it baffles you on things,
Yeah, the
and
incoherent things that happen, and you're like, why?
they don't
Why?
listen to you and all that stuff. All that
No,
stuff is still, like I said, there's
no, they
moments where
don't.
like, where was it? After free comic book day, when I helped at the shop, my wife and Nova and the baby went to their camp. They texted me at camp and said that my father-in-law wants to have Nova overnight in Brewer at Taylor's grandmother's house. And I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome because that means that we don't have to worry about one kid tonight. It's nice
Yeah,
when she's sleeping most of the time now, so we were actually able to watch a movie and eat dinner without bother. So
yeah,
I'm supposed to. But I
yeah. You
got
have this
home,
little bit of
Paul,
time.
and I was like, I want to see my son. And it was the funniest thing because I was like, it had nothing to do with the fact that he was staying over the night there. I'm cool with that. Was the fact that
Yeah,
I didn't see him since that morning.
yep.
And so like whenever other times that happens, where this whole like, hey, he's gonna go somewhere else, I'm always with them on a Saturday, and then that night we drop him
Hmm.
off and he goes, and so I
Yeah,
had all
you,
day
you
with
you
him.
say goodnight and say goodbye and all that. Yeah.
And then I get him the next day, and I'm like, can you just stay the weekend, please?
You know what? You can keep them.
You can have him for the rest of the time. No, but
Yeah.
we're getting to that point, which is great. And as a gap, I think the 3 year gap between the two of them is going to be great too, because like she obviously is in a bassinet most of the time, or a swing or something like that, because she can't do anything. And
Yeah.
Nova is old enough that, and like we live in a private area that like on Saturday, my office is a converted garage, and I had the garage door open, and he was out playing in the yard and coming back, and he was staying low. He was playing on the driveway and back, and I could keep an eye on him, but still be in here. I was organizing some things and doing some stuff, and he's still is self sufficient to a point now, which is
Yep.
great. He still gets distracted enough that he's like, I'm bored. I want to do something else. Dad, I can play with this. But like I was able to get like 15 minutes done here and 10 minutes done here and an hour done here of things because he was occupied.
Yeah.
Last summer was different. Last
Yeah.
summer was A, it was raining all the time, so he wasn't able to play outside.
You know,
And B, he was two, so it was like this, like he couldn't do anything on his own.
yeah,
Now he's
he
actually
didn't
good.
understand boundaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Would wander aimlessly. So it's fun. My wife has a home daycare.
Yeah.
That's what she does for a living. She has a home daycare. And we have this constant, like these little ones. And it's fun because I've made a point now, now that I've changed careers and I have more freedom in my work and I have
Yeah.
different hours. I make it a point to know these kids so that I'm around and I'm part of their day. Because we had actually one of them that's still in the school right now, that's still at the daycare. She's 4, she's gonna be 5. But when she was an infant, like I was working, I don't know, 70, 80 plus hours a week. I wasn't ever
Yeah.
around. And if I ran home to grab a coffee or if I did something, she like screeched and screamed and like stranger danger. And like this kid, like the sound of my voice on the phone, she'd start freaking out. So I'm like, I'm gonna make sure I'm around. And it's funny because the little one that's there now, she's I think she just turned 2, if I remember correctly. She's right around that age. And it's funny because it's like I have the little 2-year-olds again. And she comes in and she always says hi to me. And when I see her,
Yeah.
and she's like excited to see me if I stop by for coffee. And then I have the little 2-year-old interaction, right? You play with her a little, but then the nice part is I get to give her back. Like, all right,
Yeah.
see ya. Enjoy. I'm out of here.
Well, that's funny. A lot of people say about people that don't have kids, like the best thing about not having kids, like my father-in-law is like, you know, I don't have to worry about it. Here you go. It's their problem now. And it's like, yeah,
True.
I like that. It's like I said, there's definitely moments, and I will say there'll be some hard hitting, I don't know, truth bombs on here in a sense that like could be shocking to some people too and stuff like that. Like I don't think that there's a parent out there who was just not like in the first couple of years of a children's life going, why did I do this? Like not just
Yeah.
jokingly saying this, but like
Yeah.
legitimately saying,
Yeah.
why the hell did I have
Why?
kids? And
Why
that's
is it
not
like this?
that's not a diss at a specific kid or a specific thing. It's just like one of those things that like
Life.
it's stupid to have kids, people. like
They're
especially
expensive.
I'll tell you
They're
right now, Paul.
messy.
So your oldest is 12,
Yep.
and it means you were 30-ish, right? How old are you now?
Yeah, I was 30. Yep.
Yes, to 30. So I was 35. So it's 5 years later than that. And it's like, think about how awesome 34 was for me. like I had met Taylor. We were going out for drinks whenever we wanted to. I had expendable, more disposable income than I have now,
Yep.
and all that stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, like, why? And Taylor just sent me like, we have a bank account that's mine and a bank account that's ours. And I have my direct deposit from work. A portion of it goes into ours that pays the rent, the bills, all that stuff
All that good
with
stuff.
her portion. And then the portion that is not called for, specifically Taylor has it budgeted out, savings, all this other stuff, goes into my own bank account. And then I can use that at the shop or wherever, so on
Yeah,
and so
do
forth.
whatever you're doing.
And she just texted me. She goes, "Oh, this is a new cake. Can you up it, $60 or whatever to the joint one? Because we have diapers and more food and stuff like that."
Yeah,
And
there's
just
extra
like,
stuff and groceries are expensive and
I'm like, wait a second, more money? So it's
Yeah.
like there is a moment. Like I said, I definitely have had a moment, and it may have been more than one time, where it's just like you get in bed, you lay down there in bed finally, and you're like, why did I do this to myself? But then there's so many more moments that rewarding that take that and throw it right out the window because
Yep.
it's like, oh, that's why. This morning I got up at 5 o'clock, but I had to feed Riley. She was in my arm. She fell asleep there. My arm was going numb, but I was just like, look down, and I'm like, ah, so worth it. And then she started
Yep.
crying. I'm like, why did I have kids? What the fuck? Have kids for? No, it's there's never, I don't think the perfect parent out there.
And
First
she's
of all, there is
little.
no perfect parent, but like I don't think anybody has ever not thought that through their head. They may not say it out loud. They may not, you don't really mean it. It's not like you want to give your kids away, but it's just like, I don't know. There's certain things that you're like, you do a haircut, Paul. You're like, you shave your head for the first time. You're like, why did I do that? And then you think, well, it's gonna grow back. It's fine. But
Yeah.
well, yours didn't. But
This is 4th grade, baby.
but
Fourth
like
grade,
that's the
all
idea. Like I
beautiful.
don't know. I just feel like there's this. We make the decision to have a kid. You have that kid, and that's your kid. Like you can
Yeah,
be a
you're
complete
committed,
dick
baby.
and
You're in.
give it away to
And
someone else.
according to it's funny, according to a guy I used to work with, he's old enough to be my dad. Like I went to school with his son. And when I was working with him all the way through like um getting financially stable and buying a home and then getting pregnant and having Charlie. And he's like, they never go away. He's like, they always need dad. Like
Yep.
here he is, he's 70, 65, 70 years old, and phone rings and he's like, oh, she must want something. The
But I
kid,
can't.
oh,
What's
dad,
funny
my
was
car broke down.
I don't
You
want to
know?
be that old yet, but I can't wait for that to happen in a sense more than I can now. Like a kid who has no choice right now, your kids even at 12 and below have no choice but to need mom and dad. Like they
Yep.
need you. They cannot
Yep.
live on their own. They can't support
Nope.
themselves and all that stuff. So they absolutely need you. When
Charlie
I
argued
when
yesterday she could, that was fun.
when my son or daughter are 25 years old and they call you at 10 o'clock at night because they need something, it's like I don't know. I feel like I obviously don't want it to hurt my wallet. I don't. Hey, I need $5,000 is not what I want to hear. But in the
Right.
same sense, like I feel like
I need bail money. I don't want that
I just
call.
can't. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be
Yeah.
rewarding at some point though, because it's like I still felt needed, and my kid's gonna be 25. I'm gonna be like 60, and so like to me, it's like I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna be a fun moment, not a fun moment, but a moment where I'm like, oh, it's all worth it in the end,
Yeah.
and I know I got one of each. I got lucky in that sense. So we do have the like great American family. I don't have a white picket fence, but I probably could put one up if I wanted to. But
Right.
one girl, one boy. They're close enough to each other, but far enough away from each other in age that they're gonna be able to hang out. But the same thing, like one's gonna be a freshman while the other one's gonna be a senior, probably kind of thing, or
Yep.
sophomore and senior thing. So they don't have to spend the entire high school together and so on and so forth. So like there's that aspect of it that I felt like I was very lucky on this. Um, my son does have a blood disorder, which we'll probably get into at some point. I'm
Yeah.
guessing on this podcast. But my daughter is highly likely that she doesn't have it, which is great. There's a 50% chance that she was going to get it, and she
Yep.
didn't. So like now I have one kid that's, has to be seen by a doctor quite often, and one that's quote unquote normal. And so like there's
Right.
that, aspect of
Healthy.
it. Yeah, healthy, normal,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, healthy is probably
Yeah.
better to say than normal because my kids are both normal. Well, they're not really normal. They're my
Not
kids,
not
but
really,
yeah.
probably. Not likely.
If they're normal now, they're not normal for long, Paul.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
not like
Yeah, if they gauge normal now, don't worry, that'll change. We'll get that straightened out.
but yeah, so I don't know. It's just a fun thing, and I think my comic book thing and our comic book stuff is going to go get involved in it. And I think
Yeah.
that what's cool about this podcast is that I feel like even as friends, we have small conversations. You and I have quick conversations at the shop about being parents, being dads, and kids, and so the funny thing is even if this is a complete, you know, therapy session for both of us, where we just like complete complain about everything that's going on in our lives, I think it's going to resonate with some dad out there.
Yeah.
I
Well, so
I
I
had
used
the
to do
exact
this.
same thing happen to me.
I used to do this, and due to like conflicting schedules and finances and all this stuff, we haven't done it in a long time. But we used to have like a dad dinner
Yeah,
where 4 or 5 dads we'd get together and we'd have beers and we'd order dinner and appetizers and we would take a couple 3 hours at a restaurant to just shoot the shit
yeah.
about being dads and the frustrations of it and the different stages we were at. And I think it's a good thing, and I think it's something that every dad should have dad friends to be able to do. And I think back in the day it was less done maybe, or it was done differently, right? Like you had a barbecue and you guys didn't want to say that you were, because the masculinity is different, right?
Yes,
You
yes,
didn't want to
yes.
say you were struggling or that you were having a hard time with something, or it might be as simple as like, oh, so and so's not doing well at school or whatever. But it's different now. We share more as men and as people and as dads. So I think it's a good opportunity and it's a good chance to chat and like you said, maybe we make a suggestion that somebody says, oh hey, that worked for me, or somebody's going through the same struggle and it's just nice to know it's not only them. um
And I
I
do
actually
think
went through
that
that with a friend of mine, Charlotte is very intelligent, very very intelligent.
where she must have got
And
that from Liz then, right?
yeah, it had nothing to do with me
Okay,
at
okay, just
all,
make sure.
guaranteed. But that leads a whole new like difference in raising a child. She used to get very frustrated because her body couldn't do things that her mind wanted to do,
Yep.
or she doesn't process emotions well, and she still has struggles with it. And a friend of mine has a son that is very much the same, that was going through the same sorts of things, but he was older. So it was nice to be able to chat with him and him say, look, yeah, I've been through this with my son, and it does get easier, and they will grow out of some of this. Because at the time you're like, what is wrong with me as a parent? What is
Yeah.
going on with this kid that I can't help, that you don't understand? So absolutely, we get on here and we talk about life and dad and what the gist is.
And yeah, and I am not someone to hold back and say, I mean, what I'm feeling, there'll be some things, obviously some things personal for you and personal for me, that are like, let's not air that out on the public forum,
Right.
like a podcast. But the most of the time it's like, I struggle with this, or I so on and so forth. Something that I'm not even gonna be worried about, that like 10 years from now, this is gonna live on the internet, and my son's gonna be like, I watched that episode where you said you had this issue with me, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And it's like, I don't have a fear for that, because like I'm gonna be pretty open with my son and my daughter about life in general, and things that, like, I think the biggest problem we have in the other days is that when people get really depressed, including myself during the pandemic. I had, you know, 9 months of just like, I talked to some person too because about it. It was just like, I don't know what to do. I'm stressed. I'm worried. And I'm afraid, because I lived through the pandemic with an infant. And so,
Yeah.
like, to me, I'm like, I don't want to get them sick. Like, I don't care if I get sick, but like, if they get sick, this is not
Yeah.
going to be
What if
good.
something happens to them, and then an infant that had health needs?
Yep. And so, like, there's
Like, it's scary.
this thought that I'm like, I'm going to be open and say, this is, I dealt with this. And
Yeah.
and I think the biggest thing is people don't deal with shit because they're either embarrassed or whatever it may be. And I don't know. I just feel like the people who are going to listen to this are going to relate, so I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
There's no like, not very many single people with no kids are going to be watching this or listening to this. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Yeah. And as far as like embarrassment goes, I don't think I've been embarrassed since I was 7. So there's
Yes,
absolutely nothing. I had all of that done at that age, so there's nothing that's going to offend me or throw me off, or it's
yes.
pretty simple,
Why
pretty
is
cut
this
and
not
dry.
working? Um, so one of the things I wanted to say about that aspect of is, we'll have a hello@rockingthedadpod.com will be an email address that you can also send in something, that if you're like a person, you can just say remain anonymous,
Yeah.
if you want. If you say, what they say in the back of a comic book, okay to print. Is that what it
Right.
is? Yeah. In the back of a
Yeah.
comic book, they used to write into the letters to the editor, and it says okay to print. Say okay to say, or okay to print, or whatever you want to say. It's okay to say your name and the question on the
Yeah.
internet. If you have a question that we talk about something on here and you just want an answer, and you just want via email, we'll email you back. I'll
Yeah.
have Paul have access to that. I'll have access to that, and we'll just talk about it. We'll put
If
show
you have
notes.
suggestions of things to discuss, or
Yep.
something that's happened in your life, or
Or if you're a
whatever.
person that wants to come on, I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now. We are very good. We do guests all the time on the other podcasts that Paul and I are on a lot, and so on. So like, I do guests all the time, so we know how to do that. We'll do in-person podcasts at some point, and it's still possible if Paul and I are in the same room to do a guest, virtually, if you want to be at your own house on your computer or
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah. That
all
would
these
be
things are
easy enough.
options. I think we have the future of this podcast is going to go various ways, and one of them is going to be Paul and I just shooting the shit on here like we did today. And then there'll be other ones where there'll be guests that come on that have either a subject to talk about, like specifically, or they work in the profession. Maybe there's someone who's a doctor that delivers babies. I don't know. Or someone who just is another dad we want to shoot the shit with.
Yeah.
That's more likely than not the thing that's going to happen. But
I think it'll
and
be
honestly,
interesting. Like, I know different dads with different experiences, and I think it'll be
yeah.
interesting to get on and discuss and talk about different things, and what it's like being a dad this day and
Yeah.
age. And it's fun because I feel like this wasn't the kind of thing that got out there. Like,
Mhm.
when I was younger, like, I mean, who knows? I was a kid, right? So I wasn't looking for this stuff. I don't know. It was different. It was a different age.
Yeah.
Um, so it's nice to be able to get in and discuss this and talk about life and what it's like every day.
And I thought it'd be kind of cool to do it. I don't know if I've talked to you about this, Paul. Is like, every once in a while, if we like, oh, we don't really have much to talk about, or we can talk about a certain subject around something, is like we do movie reviews to the other podcast. It would be fun to do ones that are like dad centric in a sense. Like, Big Daddy would be a fun one. to
Yep.
do just because it has to do with being a dad or something along those lines. It'd be kind of fun to do like bonus episode or an
Daddy
additional
daycare.
episode. Like, yeah, something along those
Yep.
lines that are like, anything like that. Any dad's type figures. That's the other one is a dad to me is a person who is a father figure as well. So like there's
Yeah.
like my friend Mike is 20 years older than me. um, but he's like my local dad. My dad lives in Connecticut. This guy lives in the next town over. So the idea that like I can talk to him about some things in person, or he can
Yeah.
be there for me in person more often than my dad does. Not that I love him more than my dad or care about him more. He's just a father figure to me, and that's another thing that we could to talk to people about is just being a father figure to other people. Like you just
Yeah.
mentioned, you're a father, but you're also a father figure to some of the kids that your wife watches. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like that's the thing is like as a father, you might have some of your daughter's friends come to you with a question later on in life,
Yeah.
and you're not their dad, but you're a dad.
No. I think we're sort of getting there. There's like a like constant plethora of children in my house now of all age groups from the 12, 13-year olds down to the 7-year olds.
It's just gonna cost you more
And
money though, just so you know,
oh dear God.
because you still have to buy food and things like that for the
That
friends
that was
too.
this happened the other day. We were at the grocery store, my wife and I went out and she's like, "Oh, go grab this." And I go, "Why?" Because it was a snack that like I'm not really like I didn't
Mhm.
think any of our kids ate. And she's like, "Oh, the kid next door likes it." So we're buying snacks for the kid next
It
door
makes it,
now.
yeah, yep.
And she stared at me and I'm like, whatever, whatever.
First of
Like,
all,
like
we
just
know better to fight that. We just say, nope,
yeah, yeah, just
cool, sounds
yeah,
good.
just
I'll be
keep your
right
head down,
back.
guys. Just keep your head down.
Speaking of that, it was just Mother's Day, so we had to do that anyway. Thank you to all of our mothers out there.
Yes.
But yes, that's a. I've learned this year though. I was telling Taylor I was like kind of pouty on Saturday, and she's like, "What is your problem?" And I was like, "When I was growing up, the weekend before my birthday is always Mother's Day weekend, and so that weekend was reserved to my mom.
Yep.
And then if my birthday, like this year, falls in the middle of the week, the following weekend, if we had to do like a camping trip or our birthday party that didn't fall in during the week because of school or work or whatever, we did it over the weekend. Now that's my son's birthday. So this week it was Mother's Day was the 12th, mine's the 15th, and my son's birthday's the 18th. And I'm like, I got screwed out of this whole month. Maybe it should be my month. What the hell happened?
Yeah, you got nothing.
And because
Welcome to being the middle child, right?
the first 2 years of my life or my life with my wife or my relationship with my wife, she wasn't a mom yet, and I didn't have a kid yet. So May was my month. Then she
Yeah.
became a mom, and I had a kid, and now they're sandwiched
And the
between
kid was born
Mother's Day.
right then.
And so I was
Yeah,
like
you didn't
joking. I'm
spread
like,
that out very well. You should have thought
no.
about that
My biggest thing of her was
time of
like I
conception
said
of
to her,
like, wait, when's this kid gonna be born?
I never wanted to have a kid in the same around the same birthday as mine. And she's like, well, he was due date was June 2nd. So it would have been
Yeah,
2 weeks later, and he was 2 weeks early or
you
three
would have
weeks
had a
later.
little bit of a gap there.
And
Yeah.
so it's his fault, not her fault. I'll tell you that much. It's always gonna be his fault. He's my son. He'll take the blame for everything. Your fault. My depression is your fault. No,
The month of
yeah.
May is no longer Justin's.
No, it's not. I don't,
No,
And then Taylor's uncle's
gone.
birthday is today. Oh, people, they all suck. No, we get Father's Day
I
next
already
month,
gave
though,
you
at
your
least.
birthday present, so
You did. Look at this birthday
yep.
present.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah, I noticed that.
It's dope, dude. You need one. You can get them on Scotty's website.
I was
Taylor got
looking
it for
at him.
me.
Yep,
It's
I was looking at him.
it's a snapback, but it's a flex fit snapback.
Ooh.
So
Yeah,
it fits your
I love
noggin.
the fitted hats, which
It's,
I
it fits your noggin, but it's stretchy, so it will fit
the
your. It says what
that's
does it
nice
say
because
online? It says that it fits Scotty's head, so it should fit everybody else's head.
I was looking at those.
But
Maybe that'll be something I'll ask for my birthday. I just got asked that question because my birthday's into June, and I just got asked, "What do you want for your birthday?" I don't know. Like I don't know.
yeah,
Whatever.
your birthday's coming up in June.
I own a comic book store for a living. What else do I really? What else is there?
Uh, Nothing. There's nothing
No,
else.
not really.
No.
Like
Well, it's what did I tell Taylor the other day that I need to win the megabucks so I can buy a comic book store? We could go into business together and sell comics because we talked about. I forget what it was. It was something about doing a passion. People who like
yeah,
have a store that they're not passionate about. They just do it to make money, or something along those lines. And it's like, well, half the stores out there that we enjoy going to, no one should do to make the money.
no,
This is not like you're not in to make money at a comic book store, Paul. Just so you know.
no. If I can be financially stable, then Like that's it. And I get to go to work and love my job. And
Yes.
like there's the ideal, like I left a very high paying job for
Yeah.
this, which was it was a very long conversation between Liz and I, and we thought about our kids and we thought about the quality of life and everything else. Um and I'm hoping at some point to be able to at least be able to get back to the same level of financial
Yes.
comfort that we were
Yes.
at. And we're getting there. I think it's a slow boat, but we're getting there.
10
Um,
years from now, when your daughter goes off to school.
yeah, yep. That'll take care
Well,
of that one.
I mean, 6 years from now until your oldest goes off, they say a little bit. No, I'm just
Well, and we're creeping up on like having the house paid for, and
kidding.
like
And that's
there's a
big.
chunky change.
That's
We
big. And
just
we
paid
talked about
off.
this.
We just paid
There
off
might,
one vehicle. Like,
with your vehicle, with your business too, it might be a point where you end up having a little bit of like, oh, I'm gonna actually make a little bit less money, and then all of a sudden I know I should go like this because of the change in your location and things like that. Because
yeah,
you need a bigger spot to be able to sell more stuff, to be able to make that more money, and yada
yep,
yada yada. Like this point right now, you probably in this out, you're always gonna be at financially in the location you're in, because
yep.
there's not much more room for like
There's not much
selling
more we can
stuff.
do with this. Yeah,
Yes,
really.
and
Yeah, that's
so
it. Yeah,
there's this
and if we can get
next
into a
spot.
larger location and we can start doing different things here and different events and different hosting and different change the thought process of what we do for making that income, then I think yeah, maybe we can get there. But in the
If you,
meantime, I get to have more time at home and I get to get up in the morning
time
and
is
take my
money,
kids. I
man.
never took my kids to school. I didn't take
You know
my
they
kids to school for the longest time because I had to be at my job.
Yeah.
So
The whole statement, time is money. How usually
yeah,
it's the opposite thought on that, that like, you know,
yeah,
not that time is also money, mean that like financially beneficial. Yes, time is money, but in the same sense, sometimes it's good to take a little bit less money to be able
yeah.
to be there time
That's
wise
what
or
we
so on and
decided
so
too,
forth.
because I was working. My job required me to work 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
I often was working 60 or more and miserable. I hated my job, hated it with a passion. And I wasn't taking the kids to school and I was getting home late and exhausted. And now I get home late. There is like, I still get home late a lot of nights from here, but I'm not miserable. I'm happy and I
Yeah.
can get home and I have energy left to do stuff.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's a different quality of life.
And if you want to understand this or don't know who Paul or I am, Paul is a comic book store owner at Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine. That's your full time job. I'm a
Yep.
creative director for Orono Brewing Company, designing beer can labels and artwork and T-shirts and all the creative side of a brewery, as well as obviously you and I are both. I'm the host, but you're the very regular guest on the Capes and Tights podcast as well.
I am guest
Um,
co-host extraordinaire, I think is
yes,
the title you
exactly.
gave me.
And then so yeah, there's that.
My podcast.
That's what we do for a living. We live in Maine. You'll get that as we get
Yep.
further into this
Great green
episode
state
of
of
the
Maine.
podcast. We live in central Maine. It's not central Maine, but like it's
It
technically
might
not
as
central
well be
Maine.
Central Maine
But
if
like
people
people are
don't
always like,
know
where do you
much
live? I'm
about
like the
Maine.
center of Maine.
But
Like it's equal parts from north to south.
it
It's
is
like
the
equal.
crossroads. You can't go anywhere in Maine without going here,
Yeah,
realistically, depending on where you're coming from,
yeah.
unless you're like Massachusetts and only visit southern Maine. And yeah, we are the central Maine because anything north of us, there's nothing.
Yes.
That's it. When you leave here, civilization as you know it is over. Good luck, folks.
Yes. If you
Just
miss an
you just
exit, if you go past Bangor, where we're talking about, and you go farther north, there's a point where you're like, if you miss exits, you're like, shit, I better have enough gas because
yeah, you have
it's
to mathematically make these plans.
miles and miles before the next
Yep.
exit to turn around and come back on. So,
And
yes, we live in.
there's just you and Moose.
We'll talk probably about
All
like
there is.
weather. We'll talk weather. We'll talk, things in Maine. Obviously, we'll get to that at some point, because it'll come up in conversation. Our neighbor is Stephen King. We hang out with him quite often. Uh, but no, we'll end up sleeping into talking a lot of comics here and there too. I mean, will come up in conversation. It would be kind of a fun crossover episode to do fathers of comics.
Mm,
The other one I thought about is like talking to a comic book creator, what it's like to be a comic book creator and be a dad. Schmalky would be a good one,
yeah.
because Schmalky creates
Yeah.
comics and is a father.
It's funny. I feel like Schmalky and I are kind of in the same. Like when Schmalky's at a show, a lot of times his daughter's not
Yep.
far, and like when I do shows, Charlie's usually not far. She's usually at most of the shows I do. She likes to be part of it, so
So
I feel like him and I have that same. And I think our daughters are roughly the same age. His is a little older than mine, but
Yeah,
And you'll get
I
there
think
at some point. Nova will be wandering around OBC,
yeah.
taste testing the beer when
He'll
he's
be
like
like
7.
hanging out here, sitting on the floor while I'm recording a podcast, probably at
Yeah.
some point. He's been on the
Yeah, his little
podcast
head
a
will
couple of
pop up.
times. But yeah, I think it'd be fun to do different things like that. I do think a crossover episode because I wouldn't mind talking to someone in the comic book industry about being a father and a comic book creator, but like it's a stupid one not to do a crossover episode where it's like, you know,
Yeah.
crossover DC and Marvel, right? This is like a crossover of no, just kidding.
DC's
Because
better.
one
Wait, no. I'm wearing a Marvel hat.
is IDW and Boom crossover. How about that? Does that work
There we
more?
go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Got something
Um,
that's equally agreeable.
And then I also like I talking to someone who works in the alcohol industry like myself, but has kids, but works more on the actual making the liquid side
Yeah.
of things. I'd love to talk to someone who works, I don't know, a not profit about having all the things. I think it's a fun thing to think about. The best thing about my other podcast is that it's guest centered, meaning that
Yeah.
I rarely, and I haven't in a long time, gone on by myself. It's always someone else I'm talking to. You can learn a little bit about myself, but you also learn about the guests more.
Yep.
And this, I don't feel like we have to, because you being a parent and I being a parent is enough. But I do think that an extra added element would be great. And for us, selfishly, if we want people to listen and watch and things like that, having someone else to help promote the podcast, being a guest, always doesn't help or doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
is
Absolutely.
that aspect too? But I think it's gonna be fun. I think we're gonna have a good time. I think it being monthly to start off with is going to be good too because we'll build up some things to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to share with you, just so you know, we can talk about this off air, but I'm going to share with you a shared notes thing for your phone that
Cool.
you can throw things in and say, hey, I have this idea and so on and so forth. We should do the same thing for Galacticon 2025 as well, but we'll get to that at some point. But yeah, I think this is a cool thing. So I think this episode is planning to be dropped on Tuesday, June 4th. And I think going forward, we'll do that too, Paul. It's just the first Tuesday of every month. We'll start off with that. And if we add any more,
First Tuesday every month, rocking the dad pod.
we're going to every single
We got to
Tuesday.
get merch.
Then,
Start getting shirts,
we should.
hats.
We
Water
should.
bottles.
And so
Diapers.
diapers, exactly. Pacifiers.
That's why.
But the idea would then be eventually we'll hopefully do some more. And I think this episode, and I think maybe the next episode, probably the next episode. This episode and the next episode, Paul will be remote with myself until we can figure out exactly a plan to start doing this in person somewhere too. I have an idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to put it out there yet, but we'll do it in person. And hell, we should do some live episodes, both live remotely
why
like
not,
this,
right?
but also live with people in attendance to watch. So we'll figure some cool, fun things
Recorded
to do
in,
with this.
in front of a live TV audience.
It'd be great because then you got people ask questions about things we talk about or statements or an antidote about being a dad and so on and so forth. I think that would be fun. I also think that just doing like a random live on a Friday night on Facebook.
Downtown Bangor, any random homeless person that wanders up can be parked.
Are you a dad? Why are you homeless?
Just walk around with the mic. Hey, you a dad? You want to chat about it?
I feel like I'm your dad because I'm
Around
telling
the
you
Bangor
to get
Mall,
the hell
but it
out of
would take
here.
like an hour to find a person. Like,
do like a on the street thing, like walk to downtown Bangor and just talk to people. Are you a dad?
hey, you got a kid with you? Is that your kid?
Yeah. No. Someone call the cops. Why does this person have a kid now? But yeah, I think it should be fun. I think there's no ends to it. I don't think there's any real structure. I think at some point we will get to that point where we're like, we might structure the episodes in like 3 points.
Yeah, you have some, but I think it'd be fun to do it like this, where we have one with structure and one without, bounce back and forth.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. Chat about life.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be a great time. I think people can check it out. We're gonna have our rockingthedadpod.com should be up by this time. This episode drops because when I stopped doing it before, I just had it forward to Capes and Tights. Now I should put it back out there.
You gotta put it back the other direction.
Put it back out there. And have that back. We'll do some social media things. The Facebook page. We should have a Facebook page. I haven't decided whether or not I wanted one or not, but I think we should. The old one we can't have access to, just like
everything else that you have touched, it is gone. It's out there in internet world, never to be seen again.
And so the Instagram is still good. So hopefully I'll put that back up and get that going. And so we'll have us all out there social media wise. It'll be fun. Rocking the Dad Pod is back. Back again, like Slim Shady said.
Yes. And Kid Rock says in every song as it was brought to my attention. And it was asked where he went. Where'd he go? What are you doing? Is Kid Rock a dad? I guess that's another question.
I don't know. Is he?
Probably but somewhere he is.
Shoot, like top 10 list, top 10 cool dads out there, top dead people you didn't know were dads.
There we go.
Uh, Al Pacino. Is Al Pacino Robert De Niro the dad, the oldest celebrity dad with a new
Yeah,
kid? Was he like 70 when his son was, or his kid was born recently?
I think so. Yeah,
Like
that
75 or
that's
something like that?
I can't really fathom that. Like,
Well,
oh,
it's a lot different, Paul, if you have a group of people to help take care of this kid.
yeah, yeah. But then that's like a weird relationship too. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
all that stuff you see, and then like they make movies and documentaries about this stuff, like
Well,
being
like,
raised by the nanny. Like,
yeah.
I don't
It,
know.
it,
There are times now where I wish I was a little younger than I am for being a dad. The kids want to do something. I'm just tired,
yeah.
or like Katie wants up still. Katie up. She's almost 8, and like my knees are just
My
toast.
3-year-old, well, my 3-year-old's the size of a 6-year-old, but like my 3-year-old's hard to do that with too.
Yeah.
It becomes an issue. I'm like, get up yourself. You know how to get up.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s, I've been like, yeah, all right, up you go, kid, no problem.
Yeah.
She likes to do, I do this thing with her where I pick her up and I do squats with her, and she thinks it's like the best thing on earth. And I'm telling you right now, about 5 squats and this guy's done. All right, we're through here. And I mean, some of that's just back them out of shape. I am rocking a dad pod and rocking a dad bod, and it's not, well, it is what it is, folks.
I do think that there's an episode where we
Well,
talked
if we can
about
get a
you were
comment on that, hey, fat boy, just get in shape, and that wouldn't be a problem. Like, yeah,
became a father 5 years after, not 5 years after you did, but 5 years later into life than you did.
yeah,
However, 30 is still, according to my parents had my older brother like 19. And
yeah.
so like to me, it's still, I would have had a kid in high school, almost like sophomore, junior in high school
Yeah,
if I had a
we
kid.
have friends like
And
that, and I'm like, oh, weird. And I think about it like, oh, geez, they must have had them really young. And then Liz is like, if we had kids when we first got married, like our kids would be in high school, our kids would
yeah,
be thinking about college, or
which
going
is a
into
great
college,
thought process now, but also in
or
the same
joining the
sense, like
workforce, or doing whatever they're doing.
you had eight
Um,
years of your marriage prior to your daughter being born that you had the ability to be 8 years married or
yeah,
six,
yeah,
like that kind of thing
we
too.
took that time for ourselves. We took that married lifetime, which I absolutely love. And I recommend that people do. You got to have a foundation, right? You got to have something figured out. And that was another thing. Like, Liz always wanted to have a kid, and we were living in an apartment that it was not the ghetto, but it wasn't far from the ghetto.
Yeah,
And it was a dump. I'm like, this is not where I want a kid raised. Like, I
yeah,
want to be like sound. I want to have it. So like we have our house, and my girls go out in the back. The backyard's all fenced in. They go out the door and they're out. They're outside. Like, go have fun. They have freedom to do that stuff. Like we talked about this location that the comic store is at, buying this because it's a duplex, and
yeah,
we could change the layout, and we could live upstairs and the comic store is downstairs. But we're on Hammond Street, and
yeah.
there isn't a patch of grass that you could find. And I'm like, I don't want that. And I don't like it for obviously those that don't understand where Hammond Street and Bangor is. It's not the nicest part of town.
No,
It's not really bad, and Bangor's like
no.
relatively safe in
There's definitely
general.
worse places, but it's not the
There's
greatest. Yeah,
worse places to do all this in, but it's not the best place. Versus right now, we live just a few blocks from here, but it's a few blocks enough that we have a lawn and it's quiet and the kids are safe outside, and they play with a little next door neighbor kid, and all that stuff.
yeah.
Um, so it's nice to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but here I am, older, and like yesterday, the girls wanted to go play basketball, and I was out playing basketball with them, and my back is killing me this morning still.
Yes,
Like,
but there's also one of those things, and we'll get into it. It's not at some point again. It's for a future episode, obviously. We're just setting the groundwork here. But there's never a wrong time. There's never a right time. It's just there's a time
there's just a
for you to
time,
have a
yeah,
kid, and I think there's benefits to having kids young. There's benefits of kids waiting. There's never a time like if you had your kids at young, now you'd be like, oh great, this is amazing. But I really wish we did this when we were younger. The same way you're saying the
yeah,
opposite
yeah.
thing.
You wouldn't have had that freedom that we
Yes.
had. You wouldn't have had that adult freedom of finances
Yeah.
and
Yep.
being able to take vacations together and
The benefit
being
I think
able
where
to
you're
work.
at and where or even where I'm at is there's that you're in the middle part, which is great.
Yeah,
So you had that before time and you'll have that after time.
yeah,
Which is the same thing with me. I had that before time. And also to me, I met my wife after age 30. So like
yeah.
that also wouldn't have been a good thing for me. It's not that a bad thing because it happens to people all the time. Kids are divorced, parents are divorced
Yep.
with kids. I'm just saying that in my life it worked out well because the fact that I didn't stay with my ex-wife and now I met Taylor and that's the person I want to be with forever and that's the person I had kids with and yada yada yada. So there is if I would have had kids at 20, I would have been with a completely different person. And so
Yeah.
that's another thing to think about. So like all that stuff is there's never
All
a
of our
right time,
different
there's never a
lives.
wrong time. It's always hard. It's never going to be easy because
It's never
it's
gonna be
another human
perfect.
being. No, so
Anybody who thinks they're gonna have this perfect layout, I have a friend, and I feel for him so much. He always wanted to be a dad.
no.
And I think he thought life was perfect. And then I found he got divorced.
Mhm.
And I was shocked. He has a couple little ones. And I don't really, him and I aren't that close. I don't really know what happened there, but he always wanted to be a dad. He always wanted to be married. I think he had this like, I'm gonna lead the like perfect life, and he was there, and obviously something happened. Um, and now he's trying to find time to see his kids, and when that works for him, and
I'll tell you right
um,
now, this might not be the person,
like
but that's another person we should talk to is someone who's trying to be a single parent or a
yeah,
parent with a certain custody issues, custody battles,
they're
things like that,
different
because
stuff. Yeah,
it's a
different lives.
different,
Stuff
it's a
something
whole
I
nother
don't know about
diagram. Yep.
because
And
I'm 20 years into this, and hopefully all's good. Hopefully, hopefully I got it going right.
we'll see, right? We still got
Not
time. No,
easy.
I think it's gonna be
Not
great.
easy.
I think so. You should check out rockingthedadpod.com if you have it. If you're finding this other places, you'll have it on there. And we'll be on hopefully monthly. And I would think that if it goes well and people are listening and people are liking it, we can do it some more often than that too. And we'll add in other functions and features and things that do big things. But if you have any questions or want to topics or anything like that, you can always email us at hello@rockingthedadpod.com. And yeah, and if you're in the Bangor area and you want to stop in and say, well, I'll most likely be there. Paul will always be there at Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hanley
Unless I'm
Street,
baton
Bangor,
twirling.
because that's where it is. But I mean, if it's anything like Capes and Tights, our number one demographic is gonna be like Minnesota or Utah or something like that. Like it's the
The I
craziest
got I
thing.
got a message from a customer who made some purchases, and he said he found us on Capes and Tights, and he's in Louisiana. I was like, "You're in Louisiana listening to a podcast in Bangor, buying comics from a Bangor comic store." I'm like, "Hey, awesome!
What did they buy?
Ultimate Spider-Man, 2, 3, and 4."
Oh, nice.
Their
Nice.
their LCS is familiar, like another one I know we won't speak of, that hoards books that they think is gonna be valuable
Yeah.
and ups prices, like whatever eBay's got it at. And he's like, I don't really want to support that place, but I also don't want to just buy off eBay. And I found you guys, and it's nice to support a local shop that appreciates the business.
So,
And
like this is saying, Paul, this is like the second or third person to buy something off of my shop, off of my Capes. It's also
yeah,
saying that you need to have, we need to figure out your online presence part because this would be a lot easier for that
yeah.
stuff.
Remember, Stephen messaged me on Facebook like, "Do you have these?" And I'm like, "Think so."
Yeah, I think that'd be great because also it'd be, yes, we'll talk about that some other
Yeah,
time.
Paul,
Yeah, so yeah,
Paul
sure.
is not super electronics. It's not the magic box scares him a little.
Yes,
He
exactly.
can handle it.
But yeah, so
Not
this will be
good
out
at it.
June 4th. And check it out, people. I think this is gonna be fun, Paul. I think we're gonna do
Love
this.
it.
I think we'll learn a lot about each other, and I think we'll learn a lot about parenting. I think other people, hopefully, you guys learn a lot about these things and just enjoy the conversation Paul and I have. And I'm hoping at some point in the future, about 2 months or whatever number of months from now, we'll do this with some beers in our hands and we'll get real. Things will get honest, people.
Yeah, things will get honest. There you go.
That would be a fun time. No, I really enjoyed it. Paul, I'll see you this week sometime, probably. I don't know. We'll see.
I bet I'll see you around your birthday.
Oh,
So
we'll
happy
see. Or
birthday.
around my birthday. I'm either going to be in there tomorrow or Wednesday. And tomorrow's Tuesday, the
Yeah.
14th, and my birthday is Wednesday. So yes, around my birthday.
Yeah, around your birthday. I'm sure
Um,
I'll see you.
and yeah, I think then you're on the podcast, other podcasts in a couple weeks too, doing a couple movie reviews.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, I was
dude,
watching one of them. I was
I
watching
just
one of
watched
them
episode
Saturday.
8 of X-Men 97.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. This
I haven't even started it yet.
dude, it's like the whole thing. It's just like it plays so cinematically, like it's a movie. Like I really am pissed. I'm glad it's an animated thing, but I'm
Yeah.
like thinking to myself, like this would be why couldn't they just do this for an X-Men movie? It's so good.
Because if it was an X-Men movie, they would have screwed it up by now.
I know
Like,
it's so stupid. But, oh, we're nerds. But yeah,
true story.
maybe we'll get Scotty on. He's a parent.
Yeah, he's a dad. Let's get Scotty on here.
Scotty on talk about being a dad. Can you handle that?
I don't know.
You would be turning red. We would have like you'd be like have your tattoos up like this, and you'll have your Scotty shirt on,
Scotty,
and your Scotty hat
look,
on.
Scotty.
You'd be like,
You
"Hey,
can.
I love you."
I don't know. I'd like to think I could at least make it through with some level of intelligence.
Eh.
Not sound like a blithering idiot, not just be like, "Oh my god."
You know, we should get Ethan Sachs and his
Yes.
daughter.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
Because there's
We're good.
a
We're crossing.
secondary thing. There's a secondary
Blending.
thing
It's
there too.
merging.
But I think that's a fun one because I think that the idea that they're dealing with someone with mental health issues is another thing too, and that's something that Ethan and his daughter Naomi
Very real.
had
Yeah.
to just
Very real.
So yeah, this is Rocking the Dad Pod. We're back again,
We're-
like Slim
We're
Shady
all in
said.
this together, guys.
We are. Well, why aren't you here taking care of my kid in the middle of the night then? If we're in this together, Paul.
Same.
Paul's like, I was. I'm like, oh God, what? Why do you think your kid's so scared at night? I'm creeping in his room. No. Yes, we are all in this together. I think it's cool. And I think I said, dads should be more united on this sense. And if you don't need any help, you think you're doing it perfect, great. Turn it off and go to the next thing. But if you do
Jesus,
think
if you think you're doing it right and you don't need help, send us a message on what you're doing.
call us or send us an email, please. Let us know what's going on. What are we doing wrong? Hey, till next time, Paul. I say this now as you're taking a drink. This is great. No, until next time, Paul. I'll talk to you soon, man.